So the question we are looking at today is, what does it mean to have a purpose in life? We're going to talk to Chris Connors, who is all the way across the states over in South Carolina, to see what wisdom he has for us. How is it we can do some amazing and sometimes unexplainable things, like heal our own bodies by the power of our thoughts? Mother's intuition, the law of attraction. Can we really tap into our subconscious mind? Can we really create our own realities? It begs the question, are we novice gods? All right. Hey, thanks for joining us. Today we've got Chris D. Connors on. We're talking about how to have a purpose in life. And if you missed the last episode where I interviewed Chris on how to, it was really about faith. It was how to have faith, how to trust God and turn things over to Him, which is really kind of cool in how he was talking about faith as a very active, deliberate skill and thing that you can do. And anyway, you want to make sure you check out that episode. But today we're going to go just a slightly different direction. We're talking about purpose in life. And Chris, this last year has jumped off on a new direction. He's quit his corporate job. He feels like he has a mission, and we're going to hear just a little bit about that. So with that little bit of intro, Chris, what can you tell us about having a purpose in life?
Sure. So I think it starts with a couple things, Scott. You know, for me, comes down to what is your just natural talents. And I truly believe that every person is born with innate God-given talents that are truly a gift. There's something that's kind of unexplainable. We have them, and it's about kind of discovering what those are. The second and third things are your skills and your experiences. And when I say experiences, it could be professional, it could be personal. What are the skills that you've acquired, along that journey to really help you discover you? What is your passion? What are the things that you love the most? It could be very simple. It could just be, I love my wife, I love my husband, I love my family. For me, despite all the things that I do, I first and foremost put my family and the relationship that I have with the people that I love the most above, way, way, way above everything else. So that's extremely important. And then, I wrote a book called The Value of You, which is all about core values. And so I think, I'm going to say values, it's those 5 things. So I think it's talent, your natural talents, your skills and experiences, your passion, the things that you love, and then your values. I think when you have those 5 things, and you can look back at your past, your present, and then you say, well, where do I want to go? Where do I want to take this and go in the future? And that's exactly how I got to where I really felt my purpose is. And my purpose, just at a very general level, is to want to help and serve other people to reach their goals and dreams, to be successful and to be happy, to basically find that potential within themselves to live the life that they really want. And I just, at a general level, that's what it is. I like to dive deeper through coaching, through my writing, and really just getting deep around personal discovery, digging to the core of what matters most. I think when you can get clear about what matters most to you, you're really moving in the direction of what your purpose is.
Yeah. I love that. So I have a friend of mine who had worked for this company for, I don't know, like a dozen years or something like that. It had invested all of his time and everything into building this up. Like, he felt really invested. And then, and this was a number of years ago, I'm thinking this is maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there were layoffs. There was a hard time there in the company, and he lost his job. And I talked to him shortly after that, and he talked about how he lost his personal identity. He lost who he was because he had that so wrapped up in what he did for a living and not in truly who he was. And so, a big part of this documentary series is figuring out how we find what our real personal identity is, who we truly are. Do you have any tips for how we do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was just going to say, that's a powerful story. I've seen that in the lives of, so many people. I think, I'm really glad that you pointed that out. even when you truly love what you do as your vehicle for, providing for your family and making money, I think it's so important to also, not just have the job define you, for you to really, define yourself. I think independent of a job, having a definition of success, having a definition of like, what is going to make me happy? I think, from a personal development standpoint, when you can get clear around things like that, it's not just an exercise for the sake of it. It's really like it's empowering, because you're taking control and you're not abdicating authority or control to somebody else. You're not giving it over to your iPhone or technology or the media or friends or society or whomever to tell you what you think is going to make you happy. I think, and when you take the time to do that foundational work of getting clear on your values, getting clear about what you consider to be success for yourself, not just in your job, but in your life, what's going to make you happy, putting the people and things in your life that you want, that tie back to those definitions. I think, it doesn't have to be complicated, but when you do that, I think it's a lot easier to feel like you really have more control and influence over living your life every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So we're on such a similar journey, Chris. The stories that you tell and the things that you share, and the morning routines that you talk about, I put that into a planner that I share with people that helps them figure out what their core values are. And for me, I know I had an experience where, I've been an entrepreneur for a while, and if anybody asked me what one of my top priorities are, I would always say my family. But you know what? The way that I was living my life, getting up super early in the morning, working, working through lunch, working through dinner, having my phone out in front of me when I'm having dinner, just in case I get a call, all sorts of things like this. Like, I wasn't proving to myself or to my family that they were my top priority. And it wasn't until I got conscious about that I realized that my values were, I had kind of this like two lives. I had these sets of values that I said verbally, and then I had the values that I was actually living. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I took the time to get clear on what values I truly wanted that I was able to put those together so that they aligned and got peace. Have you experienced anything like that in kind of you finding out your identity and who you are?
Yeah, I tell the story in my book that, it was a seminal moment in my life, about 7-8 years ago. I had been out of graduate school for a couple of years. I was working in management consulting for a really prestigious consulting firm. I lived in a luxury apartment complex. I was driving a Lexus at the time, and it was like, I think to most people on the outside looking in, it was, this guy's really on his way. He's living the American dream in certain respects. Everything kind of looks good. And, so much of that moment, I woke up one morning. I don't know if it was just probably an accumulation of things. It wasn't some huge epiphany. It was just, this accumulation of like, I sat down at my kitchen table and I was like, man, I am not doing the things that I really want to do. I'm not, doing these things that light the fire inside of me. And so I started to look back at my life. And that's why I kind of say, I'm like, you have to make sense of your past experiences. You have to accept your past experiences. It gives you much greater clarity and peace of mind. And so, for me, I started writing out I wanted to get married. I wanted children. I wanted to write a book. I wanted to coach basketball. I played basketball all growing up through high school and college. It was such a huge part of my life. And it was like, so there were all these things that I knew would bring joy and love and happiness to my life. And it was like, I wasn't really doing those things. And so, here I am several years later. I'm married. I have 2 kids. I've coached high school basketball. I've written a book. And I've continued to make this climb and progression toward the things that I love to do most. And that really is a true story. All of those things that I listed out were the very first things that I listed when I was like, this is really what I want. And when I looked at my life and introspectively, I was like, man, I don't have these things right now. Why not? Why am I on this kind of meandering course and path that's maybe on the exterior looking good to people, but not on the interior? So I'm just such a big proponent of just do the work. You will never thank yourself more for anything in life than when you can look back and say, I'm really happy that I did, that I took the time to do that personal development work, because I know it's made a difference for me. Everybody that does it, it clarifies things and really helps you uncover your purpose.
I so love talking to you, Chris. You're like a brother from another mother. We have such similar passions and things. I love basketball as well. But it's great to talk about this as guys. And so often we don't have these kinds of conversations. I did have another conversation with another friend of mine. He's over on the East Coast, and we lived in the same area when we both lived in Indianapolis. And he talked to me about how frustrated he became. He was very successful, six-figure plus income, was the CEO at a couple different companies throughout his progress. But he talked about how empty he felt and how frustrated he was, because he was living the American dream, that he was told he was checking all the boxes, and yet he felt unfulfilled. And I think that is something that happens so much to guys, especially, that we are, taught this model of success, and yet we don't realize how important it is to get quiet, get introspective, find out what our core values are, like you talk about, and really find out what lights us up, what our lives are really about, and what we want them to be about. And then when you focus on that deliberately, consciously, that you're able to have fire in your life again.
I agree.
So anyway, I think that's awesome that you're on a similar journey, that you've found these things. So cool. Make sure you check out his book, The Value of You. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can find that on Amazon. And that will help you take a values-based approach to life so that you really figure out who you are and what you're about. So anyway, I'll just turn it over to you for any last comments before we jump off, Chris.
Yeah, no, Scott, thanks a lot for having me. I've really enjoyed this conversation. And like you said, I think especially for men, don't be afraid. Don't let fear get in the way of discovering who you really are. I mean, there's nothing more powerful and there's nothing more awesome than really discovering who you are. I think the biggest mistake anybody would make in life is just, trying to live somebody else's life, trying to live what you perceive society's definition of success to be. Take the time to get to know yourself. And I think, once you're honest with yourself about what you really want, you're going to start to see, true abundance and true happiness start to come into your life.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. And thank you for sharing the examples that you found as you got very conscious and deliberate on the things that you truly wanted in life. Hopefully, as you're watching, as you're listening, as you're thinking about where you are in life, that you can think about your values, what you want to achieve, and hopefully Chris's ideas will help you become more of who you were truly meant to be. What do you think? You've heard our thoughts. Now let's hear yours. In the comment section below, share what impressions came to your mind. What did you get out of this? If you have had thoughts to take action, please do so. Always listen to your inner voice. It's your ultimate guidance system. Of course, the best place to take action is at scottwilhite.com, because if you join me for a free web class, I will reward you by sending you my purpose planner so you can have a physical guide to help you get in touch with your inner guide. What if you are a God in the making? That would mean there's purpose to your life, meaning to your challenges. You have a great work to do. May you have the courage, faith, and power to become who you were truly meant to be. See you next time.